What's going on, dude?
What's happening, man? Happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th.
We're
I
here
got
to
my I
go
got
ahead,
my
man.
my shirt ready and
Oh,
everything. I've
what
my
better way to celebrate Jason's birthday?
Yep, Jason Voorhees most likely to kill it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got this was it last year at Spirit.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I swear it's been so dope to see. I mean, obviously on social media, but especially like on Instagram, all the love that this franchise is getting and
Mhm.
everyone's celebrating it. And I think especially with it being like Jason's actual birthday,
Oh
I
yeah.
think that that's what makes it more memorable, and I'm glad we were able to do this tonight.
Yeah. Actually being June
Oh yeah,
13th, and not only you have that, you have those Arrow video releases have come out, so that brought some stuff. Who else? Paramount is it Paramount who still owns the Friday the 13th? Who
uh,
has them now?
I believe they. I don't. I know that they own the older releases. I
Well,
don't know about.
anyways, whoever is
Yeah,
doing the kind of rebranding of Friday the 13th.
that was something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so there's that. You have Adam Marcus's documentary coming out here pretty soon. So I mean, it's
yeah.
like everything is coming.
I think it felt like there was a little bit of a shift once we got teased the Friday the 13th remake announcement that they were putting that on a 4K, and it felt like it was such a big swing for Arrow to be picking up these titles. And just to see how well they've done with these last three releases has been incredible.
Yeah, for sure. The especially the remake's awesome. I think that's phenomenal what they did with that. But also Jason Goes to Hell. I loved that release.
I was
Um,
going to ask you that. Okay, so you've had a chance to watch all three of them, right?
mhm.
What did you think, like, as far as like preference between all three? Was there like a certain release that stood out to you out of the Arrow releases?
I think out of the if you're comparing all three, I think the remake has the most of, the the most of what you can get, I guess, bang for your buck. You had an amazing remaster.
Hmm.
Because if you look at like the Scream Factory box set, it was just I can't remember who put that out. What are their not Dimension, but
Platinum Dunes.
Platinum Dunes record, or their release of it, their disc. That's what Scream Factory had. If you open the disc or you open the case,
Oh, that's
that's
right.
what it is. And I think it's similar to kind of the story that they did with the Rob Zombie Halloweens, where they had to literally buy the discs, kind of
Hmm.
that way. At least that's what it seems to be. So I watched that like before I watched the Arrow release, and it's got that very heavily saturated, weird HDR effect, but it's not HDR. Just the way the early 2000s color grading was.
Yeah, that, and I
Um,
always think of Texas Chainsaw, like the
oh,
2003 one. Very I mean,
yeah.
obviously it's the same production company, but it has a very similar feel to like what they were going for around that
The,
time.
and I noticed especially with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 2003 release, is they're in Texas and they're all sweaty, but I mean, it almost glistens in a weird way,
Yeah.
the way it sits on them. So, anyways, that's what I thought. Obviously with the original release for the 2003, or excuse me, 2009, right? 2009,
Mhm.
Friday
Yep.
the 13th. When Arrow took it, if you like it, that aesthetic for the time, yeah, it's cool. I think because there are going to be some people that are saying, oh, I like that because that's how it was released.
Yeah.
But when Arrow came in, they kind of made it more natural looking, I think.
Mhm.
And I prefer that look
Now
for at least that movie.
for sure, because I don't know about you, was like, did you see any of these movies in theater when they were coming out?
I believe I saw the remake.
Okay, same.
That's the only one that I saw. I didn't see any of the other ones.
So I remember seeing the remake when that was in theater, and that was a much different approach to these. Like, obviously, I mean, we're very familiar with like the originals, but um this one had like a very like different tone to it. Like it was almost, I mean, I think it's a very different take on Jason. You know, there's a lot of like the core
Mhm.
elements to it, but that one is just it's a very, I think it's aged well is what I'm getting at. I think the movie's aged
Yeah.
well.
One thing I noticed with that one, at least for the remake, is it definitely feels like a Friday the 13th film for a newer audience.
Hmm.
Like they were purposely trying to cater to people who didn't grow up with the original Friday the
For sure.
13th. You know, it just, and I've talked about this in other videos and live streams, where to the point where you see his underground caves where he can go. You see him just as simple. He's on the stone wheel sharpening his machete, like little
Yeah.
things like that. He captures one of the campers and has her locked up.
It's like survivalist kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, yeah. It almost, I don't know if it was made him more human. I don't know what it was, but it felt, that's just how it felt for the time. And so,
I don't, to be honest, I don't mind that take on it because it's a little bit of a different twist to the character,
mhm,
and they definitely, I would agree with you. I think what they were doing was to try and appeal to bringing in new fans of this franchise, or at least having interest in these movies, because it does feel like a little bit of a departure compared to everything we got before it. Um, but yeah, man, I remember seeing that in theater, and it was such a cool experience. Like you know, it's like one of those movies like the audience was like really getting into it, and
mhm.
just I don't know. It's like what I think going back and watching it now is very nostalgic for sure.
You know, I wonder because you have the resurgence of the remake era, right? Right at the early 2000s.
Hmm.
And then it was like, you know, this one, Friday the 13th, the remake was kind of at the tail end
I would
of
agree.
that. But I wonder if, because if you look, like one of the ones that really kicked it off was Texas Chainsaw. That was obviously in comparison to what it's supposed to be a remake of, very gory, very way more violence,
For
shows
sure.
a lot more. And I wonder if that's because that remake era took influence or inspiration from the torture porn craze of Eli Roth and
Like with
all the and
Hostel.
with Hostel and Saw. You know,
Yeah.
some might be a little, but you know, or Cabin Fever, you know, and I wonder if that's, or maybe they, the remakes influence that to just give it a more gritty, more violent, more gory version of than what we were used to.
I would say that the like during that I would say probably like a decade that we had, you know, these very specific films that were coming out around that time. So obviously you were talking about like the torture porn subgenre that you were referring to, and then the remakes.
Mhm.
And they all had like kind of like that gritty, kind of
Mhm.
grimy feel to like all of them
Yeah.
just across the board. So like when I see that, I just automatically kind of come back to like it was very much of the time, and it's obviously very different from any of the films that were coming out before it. I mean, we were coming off of, you know, mid 90s was when Scream
Mhm.
was getting really big. So it's, I think what's such a bummer though is that we never got any type of follow up after the '09 Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Chris brought up, sorry, Chris, or go ahead, finish what you were saying.
Yeah, it's just I think that there was potential with where they ended off in that movie,
Yeah.
and I was always interested to see if they had continued to go in this direction, what that would have looked like, you know. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, here we are now. Now we're getting the Jason universe,
Yeah. I was gonna
whatever that
say,
is.
well, we'll talk about that here pretty soon. But Chris brought up a good point. Yeah, I mean, Marks and the Spell did both of them.
Hmm.
So I mean, that is a very strong indicator of why they are very similar visually speaking. It's because they literally use both the same director.
Would you consider these, like we were talking about Friday the 13th and obviously Texas Chainsaw? Do you consider these like standouts for that decade when you go back and look at all the horror films that came out during that time?
In the slasher genre, I would. I
Hmm.
mean, it's better than like Prom Night, you know,
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I think. I think the Halloween, you can put that, and I know Halloween, Rob Zombie Halloweens have their problems. People, there's certain things people don't like about them, and there's certain things that I'm not a big fan of about them.
For sure.
But I think for the time, yeah, those stand out. Those three, I think.
I always forget Michael Bay was involved with both of those, I believe. Where
Isn't that
those were
crazy?
just a weird time.
Yeah.
at
And I wonder,
least for that like those productions.
yeah, and I wonder too, going, you got the Saws, the Hostels, the Cabin Fevers. Um, when did the MPAA rating board that when did that whole just insanity kind of that they let off the chokehold essentially on film?
Oh,
Was that in the 90s, or was it, because I wonder if that crazy gore was a direct result of, okay, now we can finally do this.
Yeah.
Because before, it would be, we would slap an X on it, or
taking the restrictions off of like what you could do with the film.
Right. And you can actually do theatrical releases and get a broader audience.
I mean, because I feel like I know for sure that part 7 and I believe part 8 as well were the ones that were toned down pretty significantly. For sure part 7. But I don't know as far as like when that was actually lifted where you were able to do a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. We had movies like Candyman and Scream that were coming out in the 90s, so I would have to imagine that it was somewhere like in that time frame, like, or maybe like before those films were released. Because I mean, some of those are kind of graphic.
Yeah, yeah. It just seems like it was almost, maybe it was like in the 80s or something like that, where it was like very, at least theatrically and stuff, that you couldn't do much, like, with the blood. It couldn't be red. So what'd you do? Use brown or black blood.
Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
Or what was it like? Well, even From Dusk Till Dawn,
That's true.
They did a completely different color because of that reason.
Well, part 7, I know that there's like footage that it's like it floats around on I think it's like you can find it on YouTube, I believe, of like certain scenes that were cut out, and they're obviously not in the same quality as far as like the quality of what you're looking at. But I mean, some of those kill sequences go so much further than what we saw in the actual movie. It's kind of a bummer that we just never had a chance to see like what was the complete vision for what that film was supposed to be.
Could have been,
because it feels kind of scaled down, as far as like what we're getting compared to the ones that came before it.
Yeah, I think because it was like in that time, like the 80s probably is when it started to let off. And then you got the 90s where you got Scream, Candyman. And I would argue Candyman's it's pretty graphic. I mean, there's definitely some scenes, the chest cavity scene, stuff like that, but it just seems to ramp and go and go and go and go. And I feel like the early 2000s and hit. And then I wonder if people are just like, okay, now we've gone too far. So, I'm sick. I kind of like that stuff, but
yeah,
the general public audience, I could see maybe think that, hey, okay, let's reel it back a little bit.
Well, listen, we've got some movies to dive into. No better place than to get the party started.
Yeah, let me get mine. Right here.
There we go.
Dude,
so
I love this release.
I can't tell you how pivotal that box set is for the reason why I started like really getting back into collecting. It was like the right place, right time.
Yeah.
And I have so much fun going back to that. I think out of anything in my collection, I think that's the set or like the group of movies that I come back to the most, not only just in general, because I like Friday the 13th, but I mean, I don't think you could ever get better than this box set.
No. And I've heard it said as of recently that it was a question of, is this obsolete? I don't think so.
No,
I think
I don't think so either.
No, and I think because at the price point, at least now that you're getting this, it's such a great deal on it, and where else can you get every single film together? And these first 4 are 4K transfers too. So if your big thing is the 4Ks, well, you got the 4K transfers right here, even though they're Blu-rays.
And I would argue, okay, obviously you have all the films that are housed in this, and if
Mhm.
you're like specifically trying to acquire more 4Ks, I mean, Arrow has done a phenomenal job with the releases they've put out, so
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong. This collection is always going to have a special place in all the movies that I have. So
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
now, how did you first get into Friday the 13th?
Um, it was for me, I was young. It was my dad. My dad was my dad was more, and I attributed most of my horror taste from my father.
Mhm.
His was Halloween. As you can see,
Okay.
now that became my favorite, Michael Myers.
Mhm.
But he did like Friday the 13th a lot. And I remember as a kid, I was really young, and I would hear him. We'd be messing around. I was young. We were just goofing off, and he'd try to
Yeah,
act scary. And I remember as a kid, this is before I saw Friday the 13th, he would do a and I had no clue what that was.
it's iconic.
Dude, yeah. And so as I got a little older, and I was probably look, I watched a lot of movies when I was younger that I probably shouldn't have. like
Same.
like The Exorcist, I saw when I was like 6 years old, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I mean, something. No, I don't think any kid that age should watch it. But regardless, I watched them, and he didn't even have the VHSs. This was when DVDs were starting to come in, so I didn't watch any of the Friday 13th during the VHS era. He had DVDs, and he had, I think, it must have been the first 5. I think he had the first 5 on DVD,
Okay.
and at that point, I knew about him. I knew Jason. He's the guy with the hockey mask, and we just decided one weekend we're going to sit down. We're going to watch all of them because he had the first 5. So I remember watching the first one, and man, I was bored. I didn't
Oh
like
no.
the first one. Well,
I could understand that
and
though.
I think it's because everyone's gripe when they first ever get into Friday the 13th is Jason's not even in the movie until the very end, and it's not the Jason we want.
Mhm.
And so that was okay. The second one, so we watched them in order. The second one, I don't remember a lot about the second one. The one thing I do remember as a kid, and always stuck out to me, was the scene where he has the shrine to his mother, and you have the head.
Oh yeah, part 2.
That one scene, and so there was that. But for me, it was the third one that I absolutely fell in love with, and to this day is it's 3 or 4. I think 3 edges it for me.
Man,
Um,
isn't that like that's like the best part about it is everyone's ranking, I feel like for the most part is very different.
mhm.
Um, you have certain standout titles, like, some people have hot takes with what order they would put these movies in, but
Yeah,
um yeah, it's just a lot of fun to revisit these. And I feel like I'm with you there. I feel like a lot of these movies I definitely saw probably too early on,
mhm,
but I think that's what really makes it that much more exciting is that, you're
yeah,
not supposed to really, I mean, at least I wasn't really supposed to be watching them. And yet, like, I remember sneaking them into the house, and
yeah,
my brother and I, we would go down to like the local video store, and we would like ride our bikes down there, come back with like a backpack full of like movies. Like, it wasn't like they were super strict on like what you were renting there. So I would come back with like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'd be coming home with this, and I would have to wait till like everyone goes to sleep to watch it. So it's like that much more enhanced every time I was watching one of these movies.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I wouldn't trade those memories for the world, I swear.
yeah, yeah. I think, yeah. And the thing was, when I was a kid, I didn't have to go to the video store. My dad had them all, and he just let me watch whatever.
That part's cool. The
Yeah,
accessibility.
right. So, and a lot of people I've heard they watched like it on television where it was extremely scaled back, a lot of stuff cut out. That was their first, not mine. I saw the whole thing,
I felt
So
like that was more for like growing up, that was more Halloween. I would watch a lot of the TV cuts of that because they would have those marathons that were playing on
yeah.
I think it was AMC leading up to like well, on Halloween or leading up to it. And
Mhm.
that's where I caught a lot of those movies, and then had a chance to watch them obviously,
Yeah.
like, you know, through an actual rental, a little bit
Mhm.
different. But
So you started with video rental stores picking them up.
yes.
Yeah, you started watching Friday the
Yep.
13th.
Yep.
What did you think, or how old were you at the time?
Man, I was probably, I want to say maybe like in sixth grade, I think at that point. So that's when I really started trying to find out more about these franchises. And like, I remember gradually, like I would say sixth through eighth grade was when I was really discovering like those three franchises, Hellraiser. Um, I'm sure that there was other movies outside of that that I was getting into, but the
Mm.
one I always came back to was Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really till like a little bit later on that I had like a deeper appreciation for it. Um, I eventually saw that they had those lenticular DVD covers, and that's how I collected them. Like I actually owned them at that point. So it was really special just to have all those in the collection. And that's how I really developed like the appreciation for those movies over time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's dive into the first one.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the first Friday the 13th film?
It is a movie that I feel like that's grown on me
Uh-huh.
because I agree with you. When I was younger, I didn't really care for it as much. It's a little bit more of a slow burn. It's more atmospheric, I think, than any of the films.
Yeah.
And as time has gone on, I just have this like special place when it comes to that movie. Um, you obviously know after revisiting it, you know what the twist is, but there's just something about that movie that there are like it's probably the heaviest in atmosphere out of any of the films, I would argue.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, this movie, like right from the start, right when Annie gets her throat cut, I mean, it doesn't hold back. And I remember seeing that as a kid. I was like, "What in the
Mhm.
world?" Because I mean, that was actual stuff they shot on set. It was nothing done later. It was all practical and um
Tom
yeah, for
Savini,
that
baby.
that's what I'm saying. Well, and
Yep.
then I think this is one of those that kinda it was a shock because now we look at it, we know, okay, she's not the final girl. We know who it is.
Mhm.
But at first watch, she seems to be okay, this is one we're introduced to. This is one who's going to stick it out to the very end. And they kill her off right at the right at
Yep.
the beginning. It's almost the Psycho effect with Janet Leigh, right? You have her, you think she's the main character, and they kill her off, and it completely messes with your rhythm of the movie.
Well, it defies expectations. Like
Right.
your typical tropes of like who's supposed to be taking the lead or who potentially
Mhm.
could be the like the final girl in this situation.
Yeah.
It's not who we're expecting. And I think that
Mm-mm.
that's what makes it all the more interesting. We obviously, this is coming hot off the heels of the success of Halloween. And it's just so fascinating to me to see like how if you just take the first film, how this really evolved into something truly so special over time.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like I always say it's like comfort food. Like it's something I always come back to. It's something I could throw on whenever. And I would say the original one is no different.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree with you, over time, it has grown on me more and more as and not just as a Jason film, but as a film in general. I mean, it's a good movie.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, what do you any particular kills you like out of this one?
So I feel like the the one that I always come back to is so obviously it hasn't aged as well. So the iconic one, obviously, it's a young Kevin Bacon, and
Yeah,
he
that's
he
what I was
d-
hoping you were gonna say.
and listen, I don't think that the high definition, like with these transfers, every time that they continue to put these out in more clarity and a better transfer, I don't
Mhm.
think it does that kill any favors, but that doesn't take anything away from it. Uh,
No.
the one that I always come back to is the axe in the face. That
Oh,
one
geez,
just
yeah.
always sticks with me because of like how graphic and gory it is. It's
Mhm.
a Tom Savini masterclass when it comes to the effects, and it's yeah, I don't. I would have to above all else say that kill. What about you?
Well, you hit the nail on the head for me with the Kevin Bacon. I mean, that one, i- it's early on enough to where if you even weren't able to finish the movie, at least everyone has seen that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's funny because I was watching the 4K, the Paramount 4K last night.
Hmm.
And it's so funny because you can clearly see the line right under his neck and the bulge
Yeah.
of this extra piece. Like his head is, I don't remember how they rigged him up in there, but it's funny you can see that, and we'll talk about it more. But in part 3, where he squeezes the guy's head,
Oh
you
yeah.
can see, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They,
Um,
and I think that's part of the charm. No matter how many years have passed since these movies have come out,
yeah,
the characters, the camp, the atmosphere, the effects, no matter how long it's been, it's all part of like the experience you get with each one of these movies. And I think that's why that's like the magic of coming back to these movies. Like that's what captivates us to, I don't know, just coming back to revisit them like we
yeah,
do.
yeah. And then of course Pamela Voorhees, that last shot with her and oh, I forget what the girl's name. the camp.
Adrian King.
Yes,
Yep.
the very end when they're on the shore and she just lops off her head.
I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty graphic, you know? I mean, even if you're comparing that to, obviously this film takes a lot of influence from Halloween. And if you're comparing it to that, I feel like Halloween is a little bit more tame in comparison, where there's some pretty like gnarly kills that take place in this film, and the decapitation scene. I mean, you didn't get anything really like that in Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween was really all about atmosphere, camera
Hmm.
work, imagery. I mean, that was that movie to a T, and of
For
course the
sure.
score,
Yeah.
which is funny because you flip it and go to Halloween 2, it's kind of a different story that John Carpenter actually came back and reshot all the gory scenes in it. But anyways,
Yeah.
but no, I think this is a it's iconic for a reason, right? It
For
started
sure.
this massive, I mean, how many are we in now? 10, 11, 12.
12.
Yeah, 12 films now.
Well,
Possibly a 13th. I don't know. Later.
in I would be remiss if we didn't mention Harry Manfredini's score all throughout these films.
Yeah.
It's part of the DNA of these movies, and I don't think it would be quite the same if you didn't have him doing the score for these films.
Mhm. One thing I've noticed with a lot of these movies, and especially, we've got the 80s here, and then you've got
Hmm.
Halloween, late 70s, The Exorcist a little bit earlier, that the scores, the ones that really stuck out and that people that are iconic, you don't even have to see the movie and oh, that's Friday the 13th. Oh, no,
Hmm.
that's Halloween. They're very simple. There's not a lot of frills behind the melody of the
I
score.
For sure, and I've noticed that a lot of our more modern horror films, while I can appreciate the scores for what they are, and of course they enhance the movie as a whole, how many scores do you really come back to where you're just like, man, that's iconic?
Yeah, there's not a
Not that it
lot.
works, for the movie, but
Mhm.
that it's iconic, something that like defines that specific movie or franchise.
Yeah, there's really, I mean, I'm sure there's one out there that people will say, "Oh, hey, there's this one."
Hmm.
But off the top of my head, you can't really think of any, to be honest with
No,
you. You
no,
know?
and I think it's almost like I don't want to say it's like a lost art. Obviously, there's producer or like composers that are still making music like that, but there was just something so, like you said, simple about the scores back then.
Well, it seems like nowadays with film, and maybe not as much as horror. I mean, there is some in horror, but it's even as general as just Hollywood in general.
Hmm.
The idea of scores are not really there anymore. It's all soundtracks. They license out music from other artists.
Yeah, yeah,
And that seems to be more where it's at now than you're getting a composer. I mean, other than your epic big movies, Jurassic Park, you know, um, stuff like that. But in a nutshell, every movie that I go see has soundtracks. So yeah, it's
and
just
I think
yeah.
sometimes that works for specific movies.
Mhm.
And then other times I just don't think it really it's nice, but it almost feels like a mixtape for for the movie essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So what do we got next?
Halloween. You got me talking about Halloween. That's later. Friday the 13th part 2.
I would argue this might be my favorite.
Really?
I swear.
You know, I could see it going higher than the first one. I can. I think
Well,
because you actually finally get Jason.
you get okay. You finally get Jason, and obviously it's not in the appearance that we see him as time goes on, and he eventually gets like his uh definitive look in part 3, right?
Mhm.
But there's something about this movie that I feel like it gets all the right camp slasher beats down. There's certain parts in it that like truly feel like, okay, this feels like it's an actual like camp, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like between the first and the second, I don't think any other film really comes close to nailing that tone down. If
Well,
if you really get down to it.
you even got from the start them standing around the camp sitting around the campfire telling the story. You know,
My favorite.
yeah.
It's
Well, go ahead.
it just builds the mythology. You
Mhm.
we don't even know what Jason like truly looks like at that point, and they're all like huddled around the campfire, and you can just feel like it feels like we as the viewer are sitting there with them. We're
Yeah.
listening in on the tale of Jason and what happened to Mrs. Voorhees, and that's where it doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. That's where it's like this at its core is why I love like these films so much, but
Mhm.
specifically this one.
Yeah, another film that did that really well is Madman.
Yes. Yep.
That whole shot of them by the fire talking about Madman Mars. Very, very similar.
The burning is another
The
one that
burning,
has
yeah.
a lot of like mythos building, your the
Mhm.
lore for these characters, Cropsy or Madman Mars, and in
Mhm.
this case, Jason Voorhees,
Yeah.
it's kind of sets up whatever is going to be coming after that point.
Yeah, I like what Horman said. And I like your picture. The look of Jason in part 2 was this with the sack bag is very intimidating.
Hmm.
It is for sure. Talking about kills in this one, dude, you talked about axe to the face, the guy in the wheelchair. When he gets that right in the face and he falls backwards down the stairs,
Yep.
I specifically remember that one standing out a lot with me
It's
for this
so
one.
creepy too, the way that it builds it up, because it's not like it's just sudden. It builds it up. Something bad's like about to happen, and
Yeah.
then it just gets lit up and then knocked back, and it goes the extra mile. Like you
Mhm.
literally you literally see him going down the whole flight of steps basically at that point.
Yeah, and doesn't fall. That's what amazes me. He stays in the seat the whole way down. That cracked me up when I saw that.
Maybe he's hoping there's a slim chance that he might get out of this alive.
I guess, I don't know. But one trope I think with Friday the 13th is big that we haven't talked about is the surprise little, I guess you can call it a jump scare at the end of the movies.
Oh yeah.
I think this one is one of the best. Part 2 where he busts through the window.
Well, you get Muffin that they build it up, and Muffin the dog comes back, and it's like we can finally breathe, like the danger's over, right?
Mhm.
We let our guard down, and then it's like boom, he comes back
Yeah.
and he just reaches through the window, and there's something so terrifying about like just like you're just literally getting snatched up, that
Yeah.
way, from the shadows essentially.
Well, and that kind of I think it's iconic too, just that shot of him breaking through, but just like Horrorman 77 said with the bag head, there's no I mean, you've got little eye holes, but that's it. There's no features. And so I think that's kind of what makes that one pretty scary,
Yeah.
you know?
I I have to touch on, so the film opens up we revisit Alice, and she's obviously dealing with like the aftermath of everything that happened from the
Mhm.
first film. When you first saw that movie, were you expecting that she was going to be like the lead for this film as well?
I really didn't know what to think, because I was thinking you kinda got off of, Halloween, right? It's another one that takes place it literally takes place right
Hmm.
after. You know, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis is the main for that one too, and she makes it through the whole movie. I think I was shocked. Um, what I really like about this scene though is when she confuses him that she's Pamela Voorhees. I
Oh,
think
yep.
that's a great shot and
Okay.
great little scene. I love it.
Amy Steele as Jenny is probably my favorite Final Girl just because she goes toe to toe with Jason on a psychological level.
Yeah.
And there's something that's just you don't ever I can't really think of a Final Girl that really handles it in quite like a similar manner,
Mhm.
but she's able to like overcome Jason like on that psychological level.
Yeah.
It's such a cool take on obviously compared to the first one where she's just decapitating Mrs. Voorhees. This time around, it's like, okay, you're dealing with that on like a psychological way to
Yeah.
defeat Jason.
Well, then you also have Jason contemplating in his head, seeing his mom, you know.
Hmm.
So it's great.
What about the shrine?
Dude, the shrine's creepy. And that's why I said I remember when I was a kid, that scene in particular just stuck in my head. Just the head sitting
Yeah.
there with the candles. I mean, I think it's on this it's in here. Yeah, right here. That shot
Yep.
right there,
Yep.
dude. It's iconic. It's iconic. That's all I can say.
We obviously we have Crazy Ralph that shows up in the first one.
Oh yeah.
Th- this time
You're
around
all
doesn't.
doomed.
Yeah. This time around it doesn't end so well for him, unfortunately.
No.
Everyone could have used more Crazy Ralph.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, he was something else.
Um,
Um, you want to move on to part 3?
yeah. Overall, I don't know about everyone else in the chat, but this one I think is pretty much the clear cut favorite in my eyes.
Out of the franchise or out of the
Yeah.
first 2?
No, out of the
Really?
franchise. Yep.
Really interesting. Okay. Okay. I would put it above to first one, but it's not my favorite.
Okay.
But I could see how it is a really good one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Now we got
Do the chose kill with the other dull side of the blade, which make it worse. Yeah,
that's pure force.
exactly. Part 3, 3D. What do you remember about this one?
So I mean, I think the first thing that always stands out to me is the 3D aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back and you look at this series, I mean, not this just a series, but obviously they were taking advantage of like the 3D craze at the time, and then we had other films like Jaws 3D and Amityville. Trying to think if there was some other ones around that time, but those are like the more definitive ones I recall.
Yeah.
Um, it's a different take, I feel like, compared to like more the traditional camp environment.
Yep.
This takes entirely place like around like essentially like close to a barn, right?
Yeah, well that's the end shot is the final little showdown is at the barn.
Yeah. Yeah, it I don't know. There's stuff I love about this movie. And then there's like, I think it's just sometimes with the 3D effects, it doesn't, obviously I know what they were going for, but when you're not watching it in 3D, I think sometimes it takes me out of it a little bit. But I love all
Okay.
the characters in it. Like,
Yeah.
the story's cool. The final showdown with Jason is intense, has you on the edge of your seat.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
This might be my favorite. I
Okay.
love this one. Real quick, I want to pivot, go back to part 2. Chris said also part 2 is very similar to a film made 8 years prior by Mario Bava called A Bay of Blood. I thought you would
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Chris is a big Italian giallo horror guy, so that's his.
I
he
can
loves that stuff.
appreciate that. So, from my understanding, Steve Miner has said that he took no influence from this movie, but I don't know. There's a scene in there that feels like there's a kill sequence that takes place in this where like two of the victims are impaled at the same time, and that is something that is pulled from A Bay of Blood. So I don't know. I don't know if I entirely believe that. Yeah, exactly.
You know what? It could be one he just subconsciously. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that though.
I was telling Josh from Beyond the Grave Media. We were talking about the Friday the 13th movies. I actually met Steve Miner a couple years back, and there was a part of me that wanted to ask about that whole situation.
Yeah.
And see if you kind of candidly had this conversation with him. Would he maybe, give some insight on it? I just kind of pivoted away from it because I was like, listen, I'm not trying to get on this guy's bad side.
Yep. Let's see. So back to part 3.
Yeah.
Steve Miner again.
Yeah.
Back to direct this one. I think this is the best Jason. Like actor wise, I think what's his name? Richard Brooker.
Yeah.
He's he's a monster. He's huge. And just the way he carries himself, I really, really like. I like the way, I don't know. You obviously get the hockey mask. This is where this comes in.
For sure. Do you feel
see.
like that this is, like, when you think of Jason, is this like the definitive look for him?
Yeah. Well, it's I would say this and part 4 because at the end of this one, he gets his signature gash mark, in the mask. But for the most part, yeah, when I think of Jason, I think of Richard Brooker by far.
That's hard because I go back and forth between this one and then Friday the 13th part 4 with both of their approaches to how they play Jason. I think both of them are very menacing.
Yeah.
The way that they carry him. And yeah, but I agree. I mean, there's some really, really cool kills in this movie. Like the spear gun kill is fun, even like you take the 3D aspect out of it, but either way, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the way, like we talked about, I already said it, how Richard Brooker carries himself. He's just got this, like almost like a linebacker type of build to him that he just is kind of hunched over and ready to just, charge after you. That's just, and the showdown at the end in the barn, I think is phenomenal where they hang him and you think he's dead, but he's not. Now, this is the one that has that little gang in there, right?
Yeah. Yes,
dude.
Come on, man. Like, is Shelly not your favorite character in Friday the 13th?
Of course. But the opening shot in this movie is really great. I gotta give props to Scream Factory for this though. Is you actually get a 3D Blu-ray with this?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't give you glasses. I think they missed out on that part. But yeah, this one's my favorite. I think.
What stands out to you about this one? So you're saying that this one's your favorite. What is it? So I know obviously with Richard Brooker being, it sounds like more of your definitive Jason.
Yeah.
Other aspects that really stand out to you?
Well, see, when I was a kid, this is part of I watched the first 4 when I was really young.
Okay.
So this obviously is one that stuck out to me as a kid because now I finally see Jason with a hockey mask, and I think that's what really stuck out to me. Plus, I was a kid, and looking back, yeah, they're pretty cheesy. The kills, like squeezing the head and the eyeball pops out and it gets into the screen.
Yeah.
What was it? The harpoon or whatever it is.
Like the spear gun.
The spear gun shot, But as a kid, I thought that was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching this on a DVD, And so it's not like you're seeing on VHS where you don't see any of the mechanics of the way these things work, but it's not as good as seeing a 4K transfer, right? Where you can see everything.
Chris was talking about the score. What do you think about the score compared to the other films?
Oh, it's I agree, Chris. It is, with the start of the film.
It's a low key banger. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but for me, just it has, like you would say with the first one, it's comfort food almost. That's kind of what this is for me.
Okay.
Just seeing the kills, the annoying kid who plays all the pranks in the movie. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
With Shelley?
Yeah, and he's always flirting with that girl.
Yeah.
The one. Yeah, and he's actually the one who has the mask and he takes it from him. So, yeah, it's
poor guy was just trying to get it in.
Well, yeah. One could argue he was almost there.
Yeah, that's true. Now, what about, so Chris is the final girl in this film. Where does she stack up for your final girls?
Well, my favorite final girl is part 2.
Oh, with Ginny?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
But as a whole,
team Ginny over here.
I like Ginny.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I do prefer this one. I think looking at it as a film perspective and someone who's like, now I'm older I think I like Jenny, but I love this movie. I can't help it.
For sure.
Okay. What do you think about it?
So we talked about this the other night when we were covering the Friday the 13th franchise, but there is one scene in this that freaks me out still, no matter how many times I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
The chase sequence when Jason's going after Chris. And there's a scene where he's looking through when she's trying to get away and he's looking at her through like that top window unmasked. There's something like that scene lives rent free in my head. And it still, like, to this day, when I see it, gives me chills because whatever they were trying to imply that Jason did to her, I don't necessarily feel like that's how I perceive Jason as a character.
Okay.
It just seems like it kind of takes that he just is like a mindless killer. Like what they were insinuating, I don't know if I necessarily feel like that's part of like who he is at its core, but
yeah,
I don't know.
More calculated.
I mean, well, she refers back to that incident that had happened 2 years ago where
that's right.
She had seen him out in the woods and so, like, they don't tell you what happened, but I mean, if you connect the dots, you kind of know something went down between them two.
Yeah, I forgot about that scene. It's been a while. I haven't watched this in a little bit, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it. But that's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, very weird.
Kind of insinuate that, which is a weird kind of, as a kid, it just goes over your head.
Yeah, and Jason, that's not how I perceive him. No. It's just, but.
Well, I mean, that's the same with like, Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. You just see him as someone who's just out just to kill people, just to kill.
Mm-hmm.
His whole thing is he's just blinded by revenge because he was drowned.
Yeah.
And
his mom got decapitated.
Well, that too. I always saw Jason as kind of mentally still that child, just in a grown body.
For sure. Well, and even Amy Steele's character in part 2, she's like, what if he's just a child trapped in this man's body, like, a grown man's body? It's a perfect way to kind of pinpoint who he is as a character. But yeah, I mean, by the end of the movie, I mean, obviously things don't end so well for Chris. Like, she's basically crazy.
Yeah. Yep. She loses it. All right. Arguably a lot of people's favorite with this one. The final chapter.
I just watched this.
Tell me about it.
So this, for me, is a close second. I know that for a lot of people, this is their favorite Friday the 13th movie. And I would back that up 100% because I do feel like it's the perfect slasher. Everything that they do in this movie, it just checks all the boxes. the kill scenes, the return of Tom Savini doing the practical effects for the film.
Yep.
It just feels like a culmination of everything that they were working towards from part one all the way up to this. And Jimbo, yeah, and
Ugh,
the characters are so likable. That's the best part
yeah.
about these. I mean, all of these films for the most part, but this one especially. They all have their own quirks and like weird, goofy like humor. I don't know. It just everything about this movie just works for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's see. Final chapter is my favorite of the franchise, yes, but I separate the first from the rest. I could see it being its own film. The first one.
It's very, very different in tone compared to the like not I can understand what he's saying because it's
Mhm.
a little bit more of like a mystery, whereas like the rest of them, it's just it kind of follows more of the slasher formula for everything that came after that.
Yep. What about so you have Corey Feldman,
Oh yeah,
who I think gives one of the best performances.
Tommy Jarvis. This is the beginning of Tommy Jarvis.
Yep. That he gets a whole story in of itself.
He's a character that I wish we could have gotten maybe a little bit more of.
Hmm.
And I know that 3 films, they obviously developed him through each one, but yeah, I wish we would have gotten maybe like one more film with him in it just
Yeah.
because I don't know, it's an interesting character to go head to head with Jason.
Yeah. I just remember as a kid watching that, seeing him come down with a shaved head, die. That whole
Well,
scene.
I mean, it's a psychological angle to it. And this
And
time
and
it's
that's
kid.
how yeah, it calls back to the second one.
Mhm. Uh
Um, and of course he's a massive horror fan, all the stuff he masks he makes in his bedroom and stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people like him too, especially because they're all horror fans and it's just they relate to him.
Well, the scene where he's like kind of, as like a teenager, I feel like we've all been through that where it's like, you're checking out girls and things like that. And he's just all giddy in his bed. He's like scoping it out next to her. I'm like, we've all been there. Like
Yeah.
we've all been there. It's just like, I don't know. And it's just super relatable. Um,
Mhm.
the one thing I wanted to mention, so Joseph Zito, the director for the final chapter,
Yep.
he had actually done The Prowler 3 years earlier, and that's a great movie.
Mhm.
So very familiar with like the slasher genre, and I mean, he definitely left his mark on the franchise for sure.
Yep. Crispin Glover, such a odd duck of a dude, but yes, the,
He is, yeah.
the corkscrew. Yep.
There's so many like this movie's low key super fucking funny.
Yeah.
Um Going back and watching it, the interactions that he has between him and Ted
Yes.
is so funny.
Yep.
Um, it just I don't know. Jimbo is over here, they're having that conversation on the drive out to like the cabin, and he's just so down on his luck about this girl not working out, and he just keeps talking about like, just running everything through the computer. I don't know. It's just like,
Well, then he scores.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's what I think is hilarious.
It it definitely I don't know. It makes these characters very endearing for sure.
Yeah. Um, see where I just saw. Where was it at? I saw in the chat. Someone talked about. Here we go. What do you think?
Gordon's the smart one out of this like entire cast of characters. He just jumps right through the window and takes off.
He's out of there. He ain't staying for this. I
I
don't think Gordon died. No.
No. No, I think Gordon went in town to tell everyone what was going on. Or I like to think so at least.
Yeah. I had the most brutal kill involving Axel. Um, that is, but I think there's a more brutal kill in the franchise later down the line, in my opinion.
Hold on. Okay, so I'm trying to think which kill was it involving Axel? I'm trying to remember what happened with him.
It was. Let me pull it
I'm like drawing a blank.
up.
He's the guy in the hospital, right? With the hacksaw. I'm pretty sure that's him.
Where he gets him and holds him and goes at it.
Yeah, and then like twists his head. Okay, now
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I completely had like I glitched out for a sec. I couldn't remember which character that was.
Yeah.
But yes, that is super intense and low key. Some of like the crude humor that he had, there's no way that would fly nowadays in the workplace.
Oh yeah, a lot of these. All right. Well, that's Jason or Friday the 13th final chapter. It was supposed to be the end.
We all know that wasn't the case.
No. What do you think about A New Beginning? I have my opinions on this.
Hold on. The last thing that I wanted to touch on before we move on to this one is this. You and I were talking about this. The scene where Rob and Trish are trying to get away from Jason, and Rob starts trying to like hold him off and fight him, and basically is buying time for Trish to get away, and starts saying, "He's killing me. He's killing me." That scene, I don't know what it is about that. That freaks me out on so many levels just because of like how traumatic it sounds. Like, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'm the only one, but that's a very like, yes, yep. It's so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And
it is killing me. Yeah.
What about Trish? Is she like, where does she rank for you? That was the last thing I wanted to ask you.
I'd have to watch it again. She's up there too. I think honestly the final girls in like the first 4 are pretty high.
I would agree.
Yeah, you've got her and then her brother. I mean, yeah. What about the mom? It's a good question.
I'm trying to think what did happen to her.
Was she startled or did she just die?
Well, I remember she comes
Does it
back.
ever explain?
I'm trying to think because I remember she comes back from, I don't know if she was like running or something, and then it starts storming out. She comes back to the house, nobody's there. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Does anyone know?
Well, let's see what Google says.
Rob was hacked to death with a garden trowel. Ouch.
Let's see here.
I'm just curious, like everyone in the chat, is this your favorite Friday the 13th, or just curious? Sound off.
Oh, I guess it says her death was implied to happen outside their house.
There's a couple of those, I feel like, in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh,
no way.
I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Okay, you want to? What's up?
Oh, so we know Jason didn't die, obviously.
Yeah. You have this.
A New Beginning.
What do you think of this one?
It's grown on me. I like this one. The characters are super weird. There's so much sleaze in this movie.
That it's just that opening shot and that guy, he just loses it. Yeah. All of a sudden and kills him out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, you know, he was trying to offer up a candy bar and things didn't turn out too well.
Poor guy, dude. I remember this was the last one. Oh, I lied. So I did watch this one when I was younger. And I don't remember finishing this one. when I was younger, but going back, I don't know how I feel that they tried to not put Jason in the mask. Was this, I mean, maybe someone can explain, were they trying to continue on without Jason, or was this just, I mean, what was the point?
It felt like a more experimental take on, I'm not sure like what the direction was that they were intending on going in with this
Yeah.
film and anything else that came after it. But I think it's cool. Like, it kind of takes a detour from, well, obviously we still have Tommy Jarvis, but not
Mhm.
Jason in the traditional sense. Spoilers. Um,
It
it's
was the kid. It was the kid's dad, wasn't it?
yeah,
To
and
get
that was
revenge.
yeah, and that part to me was kind of confusing, and I never that part I still will never understand because I know that they had that connection, but why was he in the foster home?
There, I thought
You
they
know what I mean?
explained.
It's kind of weird because he was that triggered about it.
I thought they explained it. It's been a bit since I've seen part 5. Um, let's see. I like the New Beginning. It has the most kills out of all the Friday the
For
13th movies.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, you have Reggie the Reckless in this. How can we forget him?
See, now you have another kind of character like that.
Yeah. Arguably, I would say, I don't know. I mean, I like Tommy Jarvis a lot, but Reggie the Reckless, he brings his own flair to the movie.
Yeah, he's something else for sure. I don't know. For personally, there's not much to really say about part 5, in my opinion. It was okay.
I still put this one up there. Like at its core, by itself, it's a really, I think it's a really solid slasher.
Mm-hmm.
And Horror Man 77 was talking about that it has most of the most kills out of all the Friday the 13th movies. I think that's why I appreciate it a little bit more. It took some swings on this one. Some of the characters are a little quirky, but it still works for me. And I was watching this before we did the this live stream.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still like it. It's definitely
Mhm.
definitely grown on me over time.
Yeah. I don't know if it's as bad, and I'm probably going to get heated in the comments for saying this, but it was almost like what they did for Jason X. Just like, let's have fun with it. Let's just do something completely off the wall. And that's kind of what I got from this.
Yeah.
And that might be a spoiler into what I think about Jason X when we get there.
The where are you at on Ethel? Is she a favorite of yours?
Which one's Ethel? Is she the final girl for this one?
No, no.
I'm telling you, it's been a while since I've seen this.
She's like the mom that lives out in the backwoods with her son.
Oh my gosh! Now I remember. Gross. It's just gross,
dude. She brings like some spice to the movie. You have
she does though. I mean, it's kind of one of those you can't help but laugh.
For sure. Just
that
a
whole
bit
family. That whole
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
The opening scene with the guy cutting wood.
Yeah.
Was brutal.
Yeah. It comes out. I feel like it's like completely out of left field. I'm like, dude, what's your deal? Yeah.
Edna and Junior. Yeah. Now I remember. Okay. Yeah. Jeez. That family, man. Anything else you want to say about part what were we at? 5? A New Blood?
What about
Beginning?
Pam?
Sorry.
Do you remember okay, so Pam is obviously the final girl with Reggie. Where are you at on, did you feel like her performance was memorable? Was there certain things that you liked about this movie compared to the other ones?
I mean, not a lot of this was memorable for me for A New Beginning, personally. This one didn't click with me. So
Okay.
that's why I don't go back to it that often.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What about
last time I went back through this was the first time I got this set.
Okay.
And then I haven't come back through it since.
I promise you it is worth revisiting. It's a fun movie. Just don't think about it too much. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's a good time. And how can we forget to talk about Demon, Reggie's brother? With the enchiladas?
Yeah. This movie, I will say it does have a lot of just quotable, memorable
Yeah,
scenes.
it definitely does.
It's definitely it's a definitely a left turn in the Friday the 13th franchise. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. For me, it ranks pretty low.
Paula was asking favorite Friday movie. So for you,
It was
uh,
part 3.
part 3. For me, it'd probably be part 2.
Yeah. Part 4 is a close second though. I mean,
Yep.
they're like neck and neck for me.
I feel like as time has gone on, I used to like part 1 used to not be that high up there for me. And
Mhm.
as time has gone on, I've really appreciated it for what it is and what it did for the franchise. And just even by itself, if you were to just watch that movie, it's like the perfect mystery slasher at its core.
Yeah. No, the first one still is very good. And I appreciate, like you said, for what it is, what it's done. Um, it's definitely up there. Like the first 4 for me are like one of the tops, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, this one I can appreciate it. You
mhm.
know, it took some swings on it, just full of that 80s aesthetic. Um, they definitely pulled no punches when it came to the kills in this movie, the sleaze, the music. I there's a lot that I really like about this one.
Okay. And in this one, if you guys know your mask, you should know from the beginning that this is not Jason
Yep.
Voorhees. That's a
Yep.
completely
Different look
different
to it.
mask. Yep. All right. Well, we'll put a pin on that. Put a pin in that one. Jason Lives, Friday the 13th.
Or a machete in that one.
What do you think of this one?
So part 6,
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people like this movie. I can appreciate it, but it also feels like where it became a little bit more self-aware with where the franchise was going
Mm-hmm.
with like the quirky humor. Kind of it became a little bit more like I don't know, the humor just I feel like this movie wears the humor a little bit more on its sleeve. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And this is, of course, where you really start getting into the whole supernatural aspect of Jason.
Mhm.
You know, he the lightning rod bringing him back to life. Um,
Very Frankenstein-esque.
yes, well, yeah, that's exactly. He becomes basically Frankenstein, or a deadite. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay, you can't just leave out the fact that you've got Alice Cooper kind of sprinkled in throughout
Yep.
the movie. That
Hmm.
part is very much like of the time. I think it's a cool way to mix it up a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
to give it a different feel.
Yep. I like this movie.
I do
I think
too.
it's a fun movie. I do like it better than part 5.
Okay.
Um, Maybe because I guess Jason's in it, even though part 1 doesn't have Jason in it technically, but I don't know. I have a lot of fun with this movie.
Yeah. Now
Um,
Tom
Tommy
Matthews is
Jarvis, he
yes.
what were
Tom
you gonna say?
Matthews is awesome in this movie. I like his portrayal of Tommy Jarvis a lot.
Yeah, it is, and he's a little out there. Um,
Yeah.
but no,
He's
I
making
love.
moves.
Yep, there's that. But I like the whole. I like the idea. I thought it was pretty cool bringing him back and then nod to Frankenstein. Alice Cooper, the
Mhm.
music I think is great in this. I think this is a good film. I really enjoy this one.
That's another one that I think you could just throw on whenever, even if you're not doing a rewatch of like the entire series,
Mhm.
and just it works. So, um, what about some of the other characters in the movie? So we have CJ Graham as Jason for this one.
Mhm.
Where are you at on him?
He was good. I didn't it's interesting as the movies go on, I personally kind of have a hard time differentiating each Jason.
Hmm.
Friday the 13th isn't like, and I've told you, not my end all be all. This is the franchise. Mine's Halloween. But with this, for me, like I rank him, with the others in that era or that time, 5, 6, or not. Well, not
Yeah.
sorry, not 5, but 6, 7, all that stuff. And then of course Kane Hodder later on. Um, but I mean, yeah, I have no problems with him as Jason. Who was it? What was his name again?
CJ Graham.
Okay, CJ Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't have much to say about it. I mean, it's a great film. I mean, that's
Yeah, this one I need to do a rewatch on. So
uh-huh.
I was going through well, I thought I had all the Friday the 13th VHS tapes, and
Okay.
this is the only one that I was missing. So I'm excited to have a chance to have an excuse to revisit this movie.
There you go. Have an excuse to go get another one.
um well, I think overall I I really like this just because it kind of gives us the conclusion to Tommy Jarvis's character. You know, I, I think that this is like the last one that I feel like definitively did a lot of the things right. The first six I think are probably some of the stronger entries in the
Mhm.
franchise. And then I feel like that there's yes, I love the entire franchise for every film and everything that it does, but I think that a few of the later movies have like a few missteps.
I agree. I agree. No, I think it's a great film. Yeah, I like that we brought Jason back. I like now that we're starting getting into the more supernatural, which that could gets a little out there later
Yeah.
on and gets a little corny, but still a great movie.
What about the scene where the camper slipped over and there's that iconic shot of him standing on top of it? I think that that's like one of the standout moments
Oh
in the
yeah.
movie.
Hmm.
Or the opening scene, obviously, I know we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Um,
He gets his buddy to go to the gravesite.
and they drag him underwater by the time everything's all said and done. So Jason is at the bottom of the lake.
That's right. Did you know? And little side note, I don't remember which lake it is, but there's an
Mhm.
actual Jason statue at the bottom of a
I
lake.
I've seen that, and if I ever happen to come across that unintentionally, that would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this next one. And this kind of basically jumps right after, Jason's on the lake. Um, this takes a weird approach, I think, to Friday
Oh,
the
yeah.
13th. A New Blood.
So, where are you
It,
at on this one?
it's like Jason meets Carrie, dude. It's
Yep,
weird. Um, yeah, I don't. It's funny to me. It's just it feels like that odd one out for me. Like it's similar to A New Beginning, in my opinion. Just kind of what in the world? We're getting this telekinesis, this woman who has telekinetic powers, and yeah, it's they really dive in the supernatural with this one. And
for
this
sure.
is kind of what I meant was you're starting to get that supernatural aspect from Friday the 13th. Not always that doesn't always mean it's good. And
Yeah.
I was meaning this. What do you think about it?
Well, this is the first film that we finally get Kane Hodder as Jason,
Mhm.
and I like that over the course of the films we get the sackhead Jason in part 2, and then his traditional style look with the hockey mask in part 3. But each movie, he like evolves as a character. In this, I mean, I believe this is the one where he has the chains around his neck and he's like decomposed.
Well, yeah, he was under the water,
Yep.
under the lake, and wasn't it her who brought him back,
Yeah,
essentially?
kind of a strange way to bring him back. I don't think it's I don't think it's as iconic as part 6, but there are some interesting angles and choices that they decided to go with in this movie. I would argue the sleeping bag kill for sure.
Yep,
That's a
iconic.
standout. Yep. So this is the only thing that I have an issue with this one. It's not really their fault, is that this got heavily edited. I feel like this film might be a little bit higher up on some people's rankings if it had been like untouched, or we could see it like in more of like an uncut version.
Yeah, I could see that.
But
No. I was just listening. I was just looking at the stuff. Yeah,
Lar-
sleeping bag kill. That thing was crazy.
Lar Park Lincoln as Tina. Did you like her performance? Rest in peace. But were you a fan of her performance in this movie?
From what I remember, yeah. It was just weird with the telekinetic thing, and a teenage girl versus Jason, battling it out.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different take. Like I said, Carrie meets Jason essentially is what it is. Yeah, that's this one. Like I said, it's just that weird one to me. Not as weird as the next one, but
yeah, it's definitely a little bit more heightened in the supernatural aspect.
Yes.
Out of well, we'll talk about that when we get a little bit further into it. But up until this point, this is probably the most supernatural one that we got out of it. And
yeah,
this is one that I don't revisit as often, and that's not to say that it's a bad movie by any means.
mm-hmm.
But once we start getting to this point, I just don't always find myself rewatching like this one and the next one that we cover as frequently.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Is this your favorite sleeping bag kill?
I would say. Yeah, I don't know. I listen.
Over the other one.
From which one? The remake.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard because they're cool in their own way.
Yeah,
and I like that. And we'll get to that part of it. But like for the 2009 remake, they didn't completely just jack this one. It's like they put their own spin on it and did something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I can appreciate both of them.
Yeah. Well, there's a New Blood. That one, it was just kind of. I don't know if it's as crazy as this one. This one this was nuts, dude. Jason Takes Manhattan.
I like this movie. The movie poster promises more than we actually get, but
not till the end he's in Manhattan at all.
I love that poster.
That artwork right there. Him over the skyline.
Yep.
Poor Kane Hodder, man. He just got I don't know, my opinion, some of the worst adaptations of the Friday the 13th movies.
I have to say,
unless actual one of them I do like, but
I'm not, and it's not to take anything away from his performance, but I lean a little bit more towards some of the earlier actors who played Jason over him. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just because I like those movies a little bit more, but for part 3 and part 4, Ted White and Richard Brooker, not gonna lie, kind of prefer them a little bit more with their performances.
Oh, I do too. For sure. Yeah. Just Kane Hodder is kind of iconic though.
For sure. This one, it's always at the tail end of the rewatches. Like I would argue the first 8 are the ones I watch the most. So once I get to this point, I kind of feels like the good times are dying down just a tad bit.
Yeah. Okay. Has the lamest kills. Well, the boxing match. I mean, that's the best scene of the franchise.
Yeah. It's definitely memorable. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. The uppercut and the head going.
There's a lot of things about this movie that don't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the point where this is released in 89. And it feels like Jason Goes to Hell feels like the last real Friday the 13th movie in the way that they had a very similar like feel all throughout them. And then everything else after that, I just didn't really think it especially with Jason X, I don't feel like it keeps that same tone as the previous entries. So
Jason X is another thing.
Personal favorite?
Thank you. Which one?
Jason X.
No.
Okay.
No. It's funny. It's got its moments.
Yeah.
It reminds me of if like a spoof. It's a spoof of its own movie.
Mm-hmm.
Jason should stay in Camp Crystal Lake, in my opinion. Well, yeah, there is another one where he's not in Camp Crystal Lake that I do actually kind of enjoy.
I can see that. It's kind of tough because
This is anchor point for the for the film franchise.
I mean, it's kind of the same deal with Michael Myers and Haddonfield.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's hard to write some of these characters outside of being in that core element, you know, what they're so known for with their background. This one gets a little bit better once they actually get to Manhattan. But yeah, it's not bad. It's a fun movie. I guess I haven't revisited this one in some time, so
same. Well, I agree, you know, with your take on, you know, these characters should stay kind of where they are. Just like I'm gonna say it, Freddy should have stayed in people's dreams. I do not like the second one.
Oh, come on now.
I'm
See,
sorry.
I like the second one. I know it bends the rules a little bit with, you know,
He does his own thing. I forget the writer and director of that movie, but he really took some swings and wanted to do his own thing. But yeah, the second, another franchise, right? Nightmare on Elm Street. The second one just doesn't do it. When they're at the party and Freddy's running out after the crowd, it's just it lost me at that point. That's something else. But yeah, Jason Takes Manhattan. This is a wild film, and this is almost feels like a fever dream of a movie.
For sure.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know that when he shows up as a child, it's a little weird. Like that whole sequence, it's a very strange way that the movie ends. I don't mind it honestly, but I wouldn't say it's definitely not top tier in in my rankings.
Hey, the best part of this movie, I'm telling you, is the boxing match.
Yeah,
it's my favorite part of the movie.
Yep.
All right. What's up, dude? Happy Friday the 13th to you too.
Friday the 13th.
This next one, I've heard some people either really like it, some people hate it. This seems to be one that I've seen that divides a lot of people.
Lay it on me.
I love this movie. I'll say it. Jason Goes to Hell. This is a fun movie.
This one, when I first watched it, did not care for it. Didn't care for it all.
Really?
Yes, but
I can understand that.
Yeah, I was a lot younger when I initially saw this, and this is another one that definitely grew on me. I would say this one and part 5 took some time to kind of grow on me as far as to appreciate what they were going for. Just recently had a chance to watch the 4K for this one through Arrow, and I encourage everyone to go pick these up. There's a lot of love that went into these releases. Same with the Scream Factory box set. Great starting point to get into the franchise. And they usually, they'll usually have like sales periodically for the box set.
There might be one going on today.
Oh, even better.
I feel like I might have seen one. I don't know.
There's been Friday the 13th overload with
like, well, if you're looking
sales
for this,
and
if you're looking for this, Monster Mall is doing a 13% off their entire store. So if he has this, if they have this box set, I'd snag it
for sure. I think if you're trying to get into this, the box set is a great starting point. And if you really enjoy these movies as much as we do, I encourage everyone to check out the Arrow 4Ks because they went all out on all 3 of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. They did a really good job. All right, Jason Goes to Hell.
Well, this one's fresh in my mind. It is wild. Wild.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Well, I think this is one, it starts off like it feels like, you know, if you watch these front to back and you made it to this, the opening shot, you're probably thinking, oh, finally, we're back at Camp Crystal Lake. Even though I've heard some people throw a fit about the mailbox or the sign for Voorhees is spelt wrong in this movie. Do you know that?
Yeah, I'd heard something about it. It's
Yeah.
I feel like that opening scene kind of it feels like you're getting something very different. And I think that's what I was assuming like when I was, first or watching this for the first time, I thought that's the direction that it was going in.
Mhm.
And it definitely takes a hard turn, goes a very different direction.
It's almost I compared it to almost like an invasion movie in a weird way.
Mhm.
You know, Jason obviously dies. He goes to hell, gets completely obliterated by the military. Has one of the greatest action shots of a woman being able to do stuff while in a towel. The little jump she does over the car.
Yeah.
But I think one of the gnarliest scenes is when they're at the autopsy and the guy he eats his heart.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's kind of
it's
how he becomes possessed.
so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like obviously early 90s when this one came out, and this one was the first film, I believe, with New Line.
I think you are right. Does
Because
it
everything
say?
else after this, well, we'll talk about the end scene, but yeah,
Yeah.
that wouldn't have been able to be possible if they hadn't had been
Yeah, I
under
think you
New
are
Line.
right. This was the first. Yeah, because this is when New Line got the rights. But there was something I thought I read where there was something about the mask still had rights somewhere else. Was it with this one, and that's why they couldn't
Oh,
have Jason? I,
that's a good question,
I,
because
I
even with this one, it doesn't carry the Friday the 13th name. I mean, it's just Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday.
yeah. So I can't remember. Um, but yeah, I think Horrorman 77 talked about it here. The Necronomicon book is in it. The dagger is in it. There was something else in this that I can't remember what it was. It was like a picture or something. Do you remember what it was?
I'm trying to
It was a
think.
nod to another film. Not the one at the very end. It was something else.
Can anyone chime in on this?
I don't remember.
I'm drawing a blank on that.
I was watching the interview with Adam Marcus and he was
Mhm.
talking about it. But I loved what he talks about, how he got um the book and the dagger on his set. Have
It's
you watched that interview?
I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I think what I like about this is that there feels like that there's like a lot of love that's put into this movie. You
Mhm.
definitely tell that we're taking some big swings here, but there's also
Yeah.
appreciation for the franchise and where things have come, and obviously where things are at for this film. But I'm not gonna lie, like, you can't tell me that by the time that you get to the end of this movie that that's not exciting. I mean, thinking about it when this movie came out, can you imagine seeing that tease of Freddy's glove?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, and I wanted to talk about that because Adam Marcus was saying, when he reached out to Sam Raimi about, hey, can I use, the book and the dagger in the movie? He's like, sure, and he gives it to him in a plastic bag. Well, when he talked to New Line, like, hey, I want to put the glove, it was like in this sealed, locked box case that some high executive had to come on, have
Oh,
open it
wow.
for him, and then like they watched him film the scene. And then as soon as he was done, they took it back, put it in the locked case, and went off the set. Like it was that highly regarded, but the Necronomicon and the dagger was just handed to him in a bag. That's so
Yeah.
funny to me.
It's
Um,
pretty cool though. It's to have so many different tie-ins. I mean, the closest thing that I always refer back to that we we've gotten before is like Alien versus Predator. So to have the
Yeah.
tease of something like this happening down the line, I can't imagine seeing this back when it was released. I think I would have been mind blown if I'd seen this in theater.
Well, think about how long they had to wait before they actually finally got that. Because like how
10
long was it?
years.
Yeah,
10 years.
how long was it between seeing the Xenomorph and Predator to getting Alien versus Predator? How many years was that?
Between AVP and what?
I don't remember which Predator it was, but you saw the Xenomorph
Oh, a
on the wall.
Predator 2, sorry.
Yeah. So how many years
Ooh,
was in between that?
that's a good question.
Yeah. But
Where
that's what I'm saying is that's another one. They had to wait a long time to get that crossover.
So Alien versus Predator was in 2004, and then Predator 2 is in 1990. So it's kind of a similar wait. I mean, if anything, that was a little bit longer, except you got the Alien versus Predator concept in comics, just not on film.
Yeah.
Um, where does this one rank for you?
You know what? Surprisingly, this is kind of up there. I had really good time with this one. Um, uh, I don't know. I'm gonna say something very controversial. I do like it better than um A New Blood
That's
and
fair. I could see that.
and A New Beginning.
Oh, okay. Take it easy, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Hey, I know. Like I said, it's gonna be controversial. I put Jason Lives over this. I really like Jason Lives. I know I'm talking a lot about this one because it's like you said, it's fresh. I just did a review of the Arrow 4K.
The 4K is very nice.
But I do like this one. It's pretty good. What do you think about Jason having a sister? A lot of people like that. It's kind of the whole Laurie Strode, Michael Myers thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily needed that. There's a lot about this movie that I think works, and the fact that it's like A New Beginning, I feel like both of these have aged really well. I mean, it kind of gives me almost like Shivers vibes with this movie.
Yes, yeah, it does.
This is like one of the few Friday the 13th movies that we get that's almost like very body horror influenced. And I don't think you really get that outside of this entry. So there's things that I think it does right, like the end scene, the wild swings when it comes to the concept, but I don't know if I necessarily needed that thrown into the mix. I don't know what do you think about it?
I'm not a fan of that. I don't think so. But I do like is Adam Marks talked about is him being a Deadite. I think that's a really cool concept.
It is interesting
how he explains it. I mean, kind of makes sense.
I'll have to check that out because
right. So
I've heard that talked about, but I wasn't really sure like in what capacity.
His idea is Pamela Voorhees is so distraught with Jason dying that she tries everything she can to revive him, to somehow bring him back. She comes across the Necronomicon and she's able to bring him back, but as a Deadite. And so that's why from the first Friday 13th to part 2, he's like grown up and he's monstrous and he just gets all this. He gets super strength and all this stuff is because he's a Deadite.
And he does get stronger as the movies go on. It seems like, I mean, it goes from being just, a masked killer in the woods to supernatural strength, basically can't die. It's pretty cool how he evolves as a character.
Yeah. Yep. So Jason Goes to Hell.
We got your next, your favorite one, your next favorite.
No, this one I think is, in my opinion, the worst. I can't stand this one. Jason X Evil gets an upgrade.
Oh, it gets an upgrade, all right.
Or what's KM? They say what does he say? I gave her an upload.
Oh my god.
Does he even say the words right? This movie.
It's something.
Like it looks like a Stargate SG-1 TV movie. And it cracks me up. You're watching and like the graphics aren't the best, obviously. No. But then all of a sudden you get the training sequence where the big monster comes out and they're
Oh yeah.
fighting this alien looking monster, and it looks like it completely takes you out. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot about this movie that I don't think works. It
yeah.
just feels like it took a step back as far as like production, and I don't listen, I really don't mind it being in space. Obviously, we have Leprechaun, that eventually was, like for one entry was taken into a space, but yeah, this one there's a couple moments in it like the face slushy, which I think is awesome and it's very memorable. Uber Jason's look is, it's cool for what it is for sure. I
Yeah.
don't hate it, but there's like other scenes like the what is it? Like the hologram scene where they're trying to recreate Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh gosh.
I like where they were going with it, but the dialogue is a little like
Oh
kind of out
man, we
there.
want to go get high or whatever they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? In the Jason franchise, like the Batman and Robin. Like it just what in the world is that's what this is to me.
And it's just very it feels very far removed from the Paramount movies. It just and like you mentioned earlier, it feels very self-aware of what it's doing, what it
Oh, for
is.
sure. Yeah.
Um, some of like none of the characters are all that likable. I don't know. I don't think
No.
so, at least.
No, there I can't stand any of them. Um
I just can't.
the dude who loses his arm, he gets it cut off. Like that whole scene, I need my arm, and then that like suction bandage thing they put on his arm. Yeah, I think the only guy I like is the pilot,
Yeah.
the guy who pilots the ship. I think that's my favorite character, other than Jason, obviously.
But what about Cam 14?
KM. Oh gosh, that whole scene when she like goes Matrix mode,
Oh my god.
dude, it is cringy as can be.
Yeah, it's not good.
Um, yeah,
I
I don't
just
know what they were thinking.
I don't
I'll
know.
tell you though, the
I'm not
4K looks okay, and I don't think it looks as good as Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell, just because how it was filmed.
for
I think that
sure.
has a lot to do with it.
It has a very like sci-fi channel feel to it.
Yeah,
The set pieces just feel kind of I don't know. It just doesn't even if you're trying to roll with this concept, it just I don't know, like the production kind of takes me out of it a little bit. And even
yeah.
like the CGI just hasn't really aged that well, unfortunately.
One of the kills that I did like in this one was where he freezes the girl's head,
Yep.
just bashes. I think
Yep.
that's one of the best.
No, the ending always cracks me up.
Oh
Where
gosh, where he winds back up on like Crystal Lake or something like that.
yeah, so I was just very confused by it because um they're both like basically like as like a meteor essentially going like crashing onto I believe it's considered Earth 2.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, so yes, okay. So Joe's right. It does feel a little bit like a TV movie.
That's what I was saying earlier, like a Stargate SG-1 TV movie.
Yeah. It's just a very I don't know, it's just a very goofy way to end it. So obviously, the teenagers by the lake, they think it's a falling star, which we obviously know that that's not what it is. And then we
Mhm.
just end that movie where Jason's mask is sinking to the bottom of the lake.
I just wonder, did they because the way they ended that, it felt like they thought, hey, let's leave it open-ended.
Hmm.
I mean, I couldn't imagine them continuing that.
No, it feels like the one movie out of the franchise that feels very out of place.
Mm.
Eh,
Well, for sure, yeah.
and obviously it wasn't too long after that. I believe it was 2 years later that we got Freddy versus Jason.
Let's see. 2002. 1 year later, it was the next year.
Was it really?
Jason X came out in 2002, and this came out in 2003. This is what it says.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I think you're right.
So same year as Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Crazy.
Um,
Very different films.
What do you think of this? This has been a long time since I've seen this.
I don't mind it. I'm okay. Here's the thing. If you look into the production for this film, I'm just happy that this movie got made because it sounds like they had a lot of difficulty trying to find a script to agree on and to get made.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a real possibility that we maybe wouldn't have gotten this movie, but I'm glad we got what we did. Even if it's not, I don't think it's like top tier, but to get both of these horror icons on screen together, it's pretty cool. Like there's some missteps, but for the most part, I enjoy watching it.
Well, and Robert Englund to come back as Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. One of the scenes that always sticks out to me that I remember when I first saw this was when the guy's laying in the bed and Jason comes up and bolts.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Wild.
Probably one of my favorite kills in the movie, or the when they're in the like they're at the party and what doesn't he just like throws the machete. Is it on fire? I can't remember if it was on fire or not.
It's something. And then I remember when Freddy, the what was it, like the compressed air like tanks, and he just took shooting at him like a bullet.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's very much of the time.
Yeah.
Feels like a movie that came from that decade, but I don't know. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite, but I enjoy the movie for what it is. And
I think it's a fun movie. It's one of those, it's like a popcorn flick. You sit down, you put it on, you have a good time. Now the question is, who won?
That's tough. I don't know. They didn't. I don't really feel like it's definitive the way that they tease it, because now, okay, hold on. Before we get to that part of it, what did you think about the final fight between the two of them? Did you like that aspect of it, or?
I'd have to rewatch it. Like I said, it's been a bit. Remind me what happens.
They're just he finally gets pulled out of the dream world, and then has to go toe to toe with Jason. Obviously, he's a little bit more susceptible to taking damage. You have like the tank scene where he's launching those. It all takes place like basically leading up. I'm trying to think towards, because they're on the campgrounds. I'm trying to think. So Jason punches through Freddy's torso. Freddy plunges Jason's machete into his side. Jason rips off Freddy's gloved arm. And then there's an explosion that throws Freddy and Jason into the lake. Freddy climbs out. He's about to kill the pair, but is impaled by Jason with his gloved arm, allowing Laurie, the final girl, to behead Freddy with Jason's machete. And then we get the clever nod at the very end of it. Yeah, I would agree with what Joe's saying. I do feel like it's more of like feels like a little bit of a cop out, he
walks out with his head and Freddy winks at the camera.
But now, does this film feel more like a Nightmare on Elm Street film to you, or a Friday the 13th film?
See, that's the question. I feel like it's a Nightmare on Elm Street film.
Same.
But they're both new lines, so I feel like this easily could have been in a Nightmare on Elm Street box set. Freddy vs. Jason.
I mean, it's really the last movie that I feel like needs to get that boutique treatment.
I hope so. I hope we get it for sure. I don't know.
I think like it's a fun way to kind of cap off as you're wrapping up the series. But I will say, though, I feel like the next one we're going to talk about, I think I like a little bit more than this one.
Yeah, the next one's really good. a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That would have been interesting. And that would have made sense as a tie-in basis off of
For
Jason
sure.
Hell. So, anyways, the remake, Friday the 13th, 2009.
So we had 6 years in between.
Yep.
I really like this movie.
It's a good movie. They completely reinvented Jason in this. Just the way he is. He's just, yeah, I get he was a monster, crazy guy in the other ones, but this one, he's faster.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like a linebacker. The dude like just plows through people. Like the opening shot around the campfire, just the sound effects.
The
bear trap, him hanging them in the sleeping bag over the fire. It's wild.
There's so what I do think this film does really well is it takes a lot of influence from the first 4 films.
Yes.
Kind of does its own thing with them.
It almost puts them all together. Mm-hmm. Kind of the best parts of each.
That's why, like, I don't know. I get kind of bummed out that we never got anything after this, because if you came out with something, let's just say like a year or 2 years later, you could have rode off of this film, off the momentum, and come out with like, done your own take on it. Unfortunately, it's such a missed opportunity. We never got a follow-up to this one, and here we are. We're just waiting for a 13th movie at some point, if that ever happens.
Yeah, I think this was a great movie. I love the way they made Jason look.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one.
The updated sack head look that he had at the beginning, which I think looks a little bit more like badass.
Yep. This is what I was saying earlier is it's not a Scream Factory disc in here.
No, that's right.
Yep. No, I do like this movie. I think it was really, really well done.
Did you think that group from the beginning, did you think that they were going to be the characters we were going to follow throughout the rest of the film when we saw them?
No.
Really?
Which ones are you talking about? The ones at the campfire?
Yeah, with Clay's sister. So it's Whitney and that group of friends where they had the 2 guys that were looking for the weed in the forest, and
yeah, I honestly thought they were all going to die. I'll be honest.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw it, I mean, obviously it takes a much darker, twist to it, but initially I'm thinking that these are the characters we were going to follow. Like the first time I saw it in theater, that obviously isn't the case, but it's an interesting twist to where the story goes, because those obviously those characters, other than his sister, I mean, we get what, 15 minutes with them essentially, and then they're killed off, and then we actually start the movie.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, and then what was his name? He's a guy who plays in Supernatural. That guy.
Oh, Jared Padalecki.
He doesn't he die in the end? Does he get killed?
We don't know.
I thought he sacrificed himself, but I can't remember.
No, it's what's her face?
What's the other girl?
Jenna's the one who gets snatched up by Jason at the very end of it. Which that's another part about this, that again with the twists, I was not expecting that. I mean, you're so used to there being a final girl in these movies, and yet it's kind of like a final guy by the end of the movie.
Yeah. What did you think about the whole tunnel system, him having kind of a whole method to his madness aspect of it?
It's a different take on Jason. I mean, it's scary. You're basically going up against like someone that's been in the woods to an extreme as a survivalist. It makes more sense if you're looking at it from more of like a practical angle. If he is hunting these, campers, how else would you explain that he's able to get around? I mean, the original movies, obviously it's kind of implied like, there's like that supernatural element to him as a character. This, I feel like it gives a more grounded tone to it.
It does. It does, definitely, for sure.
The characters in this movie, they're goofy. I don't think they have quite as much charm compared to the original movies,
Mhm.
but it feels like it's like a modern retelling of the Friday 13th tropes with characters that are maybe a little bit more relatable to when this movie came out.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Overall, I think it's a great movie. I really enjoy it. I mean, it's obviously not my favorite, but it definitely is a very, very good film. That's all of them.
Yeah.
Frank said, trying to get out of the house to see the original theater tonight. Dude, my theater, I'm so irritated. My theater's not showing that, and we didn't get Dangerous Animals.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
my
wow.
theater
Okay.
didn't get them, so I'm gonna have to go out of town to watch them.
I saw them. I can't remember if it was last summer or the summer before. I saw the first one and second one as a double feature at the drive-in near
That's
us.
cool.
So much fun.
That's cool. So before we wrap it up, where do you think the franchise is going to go now? That's the question.
Jordan, I'm still wondering the same thing. Even with any of this news, I don't know. I want something to be excited about, and I just don't feel like I'm getting anything.
I was really hoping we were getting some sort of announcement today because of that Instagram account saying stuff is coming out. And I mean, the only information I saw that we got was he's coming to Halloween Horror Nights. Did you see that?
And the NECA figure.
Yeah, like I was hoping, oh, a trailer or a promo for the show, or hey, we're going to be making a new movie or something.
Can I be honest? I don't know who is clamoring for either one of these. We've been having to wait for what, almost it would be almost what, 16 years now at this point since the last one was released.
Yeah. The only other thing that came out, because there was a video game.
Well, okay. That I will say, that game was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bummer that they took down the online play. A lot of the resources, it sounded like, went into Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I didn't think that game kind of it didn't land quite as well as the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest with you, like, I just want some news of a movie being in development. I don't care about, like, Jason to me isn't like some, like, they treat it as like a cash cow essentially. And I just feel like that the way that they're handling this is just kind of gross. It doesn't feel like these are people that have any invested interest in him as a character. And I try to be optimistic about this.
Yeah.
Outside of the TV series, like Frank was talking about, that's what I thought that they were going to be teasing today, not all this other stuff that just doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah. What do you think, if they were to do a movie, what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to do another retelling of the original, or are they going to continue on the story?
I don't think that they need to do a retelling. Like, I think it would be too on the nose if you were to do what they did for the 09 remake. Just, you don't really have to do anything. We know the story behind it. Just make it its own thing. Like, just come up with some cool concept for like the movie, and that's it. I mean, have likable characters, have Jason in it.
What they should do is kind of, I don't know if it's been too long for them to do it, but go back to the remake, the 2009 remake, and continue that storyline.
Yeah. Like, why not?
Yeah.
And listen, I'm excited for the TV series. I want that to be good. But underneath it all, man, I'm just itching for a new movie. And the longer that time goes on, I mean, you have movies like In a Violent Nature that I feel like is kind of taking advantage of there being a lack of Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. At least I know I'm going to be getting a sequel to that.
Hey, Jason might show up there. Imagine them doing that.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Where do you want to see things go from this point forward?
I'm same as you. I'd like to see another movie. As far as the TV show, personally, I'm kind of over the prequel shows.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of been done. It's, I think there's been a couple really good ones that was out there. Bates Motel, I thought was great.
I heard good things about that.
But, I think the idea of now we're going to make a show, I'm over it. And it could be the whole Disney thing with their Marvel and Star Wars making, we're going to do this show and this show and this show. It's almost too overloaded. I'm ready to go back to getting a movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think that the movie, at least, I just don't know how you can draw this out for multiple episodes. And it's the same concerns that I have for Alien Earth, where these franchises work as movies. But I think it's a little challenging to try to do this as multiple episodes in a season. I just don't know if it's going to translate the same way it does, on film.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I was really kind of annoyed when I saw NECA and I was like, are you kidding me? We're going to have a merchandise line.
I just thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't have got my hopes up.
Yeah. What did you think? We'll wrap it up after this. What did you think of the new design that we got of Jason?
It doesn't, I don't know. It just
There's nothing that stood out to me. It looked like a slim dude in a hockey mask.
It feels very bland. It feels very corporate. It feels like very corporate. Like someone put this together with AI, and I just want them to go back to what made this franchise so special, because there's no reason that this should be there's no reason there should be this big of a gap in between films. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Chris, you missed out on a great conversation. That's all right. You had things you had to do. Yeah, man, it was good.
From us to you, Chris, happy Friday the 13th.
Yes. Well, I'm probably going to pop in another one of these Friday the 13th movies, and I'll probably watch the 3D one. It's my favorite. Yep. So.
I got to go finish. I started part 5 earlier, and then I'm going to just keep it rolling on.
Oh no. My phone is on do not disturb. So I do
the same things. I don't get any messages.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Hey, Sunday we have something fun. So
yes, that is true. I'm super pumped for that. We're going to be covering more movies than just Friday the 13th. That's for sure.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that's all.
Real.
It's been real. It's been fun. Happy Friday the 13th. Officially on the actual birthday from the movie.
Happy birthday, Jason.
Happy birthday, Jason. All right, guys. Well, everyone in the chat, take care.
Yep.
Steve.
Catch you on the next one.
I'll probably text you later. So
yes. All right.
All right.
All right. I'll see you, brother.
Later. See ya.